So you were wrong, your mum was wrong, I was wrong, we're all wrong, and sometimes it absolutely sucks. That's why sometimes we do need to get off our high horse and go with that terrible wrestling phrase where we do have to wait and see and let storylines play out. At the same time, it's fun to be reactionary and it's fun to be a crazy Chris. But that also means we do have to hold our hands up and admit when we were mistaken. Hello, I'm Simon Miller, and let's cleanse ourselves of these right now. Talk about times we totally flubbed up. Number 10, John Cena sucks. Now, my favourite thing about this chant is that you never hear it now, because ever since John Cena has returned to WWE, he has entered that all-time legendary status, and every single fan is just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I get to see John Cena. Even though you can't see him, it's very confusing. Still, back in the day, people did love to chant John Cena sucks or Cena sucks along to his entrance music, and while that was catchy, let's just reveal it right now. John Cena never sucked at all. Well, that's probably not true when he first broke in, but as soon as he did find his momentum in WWE, he was like the perfect superstar. I mean, he could walk the walk and he could talk the talk, and fine, if you want to use those kind of words, no, he wasn't going to have a 5-star classic in the Tokyo Dome, but you wouldn't have wanted that either. What John brought to the table was perfect for the job he was meant to do. He's also involved in some of the best stories of the modern era. Now, a lot of this hate we are talking about came from the fact that he always won. Now listen, there were exceptions to this, like my word, why didn't the Nexus win? But at the same time, it just told you that victory and defeats do matter, and because he did become Super Cena, well, you believed in all of his shtick, and sometimes got pissed off by it. Now, that's not to say you're not allowed your own opinion about how this man approaches pro wrestling, but just look at the numbers and look at the statistics. If that's what sucking is, man, plug me in and I will suck. Number 9, it's just sports entertainment. Now, is sports entertainment a stupid term? Of course it is, it's just there for buzzwords and marketing, so WWE can walk away going, we ain't wrestling, because look, we came up with this handy catchphrase that's far more palatable to advertisers. Now, it's taken on a life of its own though, because all of a sudden some detractors were like, yeah, well, it also correlates to the wrestling that you're giving me. And once again, there are certain examples of this, but on the whole, it's total poppycock. Now, it's definitely totally wrong today, but even if you go back a few years to 2018, you can watch that Seth Rollins versus Dolph Ziggler Iron Man match from Extreme Rules, and good grief, these two go absolutely crazy wazy, and the only reason that got any kind of heat is because WWE had that stupid clock on the screen, and the fans in attendance that night were like, we're gonna count down every minute like it's the Royal Rumble buzzer. Now, 1, they shouldn't have done that, and 2, that's just a little bit funny. Understandably, it pissed Seth and Dolph off though, as it would anybody, but still, if you just focus on the in-ring, these two were working their asses off. That's a damn good fight. So it just goes to show it doesn't matter the initials above the door. If you go in there with the right frame of mind, you can create beauty all of the time, even if sports entertainment is the conditions that you're working under. Not sure that made sense. Number 8, the Goldberg and Brock Lesnar backlash. So I'm going to be annoying here, so I just apologize now. But back in 2004 at WrestleMania 20, Brock Lesnar and Bill Goldberg got booed at Madison Square Garden because both of these individuals had decided to leave the WWE. I mean, how dare they? The rumor has always been that Shane McMahon was also in the crowd, just trying to stir everybody up. And since then, we've mostly gone, well, we believe we are justified for our actions. The thing is, though, when you do strip this back a little bit, what we're basically talking about here is the fact that Bill Goldberg and Brock Lesnar are just human beings, and they had certain emotions. I mean, Goldberg was off because he couldn't handle the way his character was being treated anymore, and also he couldn't handle the backstage politics, whereas Brock was like, man, I don't want to travel this much. Not good for my personal life, and I'm done. Now, these are fair reasons for anybody to want to go, so I suppose this ties into the tribal aspect of wrestling. And I'm not saying we're talking about guys of moral upstanding, but even then, you're allowed to choose to exit your job at any given time. You know, that's like a perfectly reasonable and normal thing to do. 17 Ambrose was mishandled. Now, there is some truth to this, because look at the guy he has become now, Jon Moxley. I mean, he is at the tippity top of AEW. Some of the matches he's had were their all-time modern classics. Also how he should have been portrayed in WWE after a while, but instead, well, let's face it, we took the goofy stuff too far. And that's me saying this. I don't think it's right to say that we totally dropped the ball with him over there, though, because let's also not forget, he was the WWE flipping champion. And sure, that wasn't booked entirely correctly, but he still made it to the top of the mountain, and when you do go through the history books, well, that list is pretty short. So misjudged is probably a better word, because Dean, when you do break it down, still had a pretty damn good WWE run. I think he would be the first one to tell you that as well. He just got so sick and tired of, turning up to SmackDown and having to be the Mountie. Now, I found that quite funny. If you're trying to establish yourself as a serious person, well, I totally understand. Number 5, the Judgment Day is nothing without edge. So we were all incorrect about this, because it just seems so obvious. Nope. Because there was so much noise when Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest did turn on the Rated R Superstar, and when Finn Balor randomly joined, it was Facepalm City. What are we doing? I suppose that is a nod to Adam Copeland, who has just had a terrific career and people love him, but it actually turned out, when he had been flicked out of the group, oh my gosh, Judgment Day became one of the best things going. And even when JD McDonough was put in there were yet more criticisms. And yet, what did they do? They just improved and got better and got way more interesting from a storyline point of view. I mean, in many ways, if you want to say this vehicle took Damian to the World Heavyweight Championship, you ain't getting an argument out of me. So you just gotta put your hands together and give them a huge round of applause. Finn definitely should have still beaten Edge at that WrestleMania, but I guess you can't have it all. But once again, this is a wonderful piece of evidence where sometimes we just need to be patient. I mean, when the Judgment Day eventually break up, I will be devastated, and I will tell you this, my friends, I did not think that when they first got together. In fact, initially, I didn't really understand it at all. Number 5, no chairs to the head. So we really should stop this everywhere because it's just not worth it. We all understand how dangerous it is to wham the brain with a heavy object, and I just want to ensure that after wrestlers retire, they can still have a pretty good life. When we did all start to learn about CTE though, people in the WWE were still smashing each other with chairs. When we went away from this, a lot of fans were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're doing it. I'm not going to be able to watch wrestling without that sort of a move. I mean, the big thing was that WWE was being too soft, which is ridiculous. But I think what we understand in 2024 is that you can make any story and any angle or any narrative work without this, even if you have to hit somebody in the back. I mean, it would still be painful. Do I want someone to run here right now and hit me in the back with a chair? No, I don't. Unless it's for a big pop. I think sometimes we all need to remember that wrestling is a creative endeavor, so there's always a way to get around this. So again, I'm going to get back on that high horse I was talking about. Any wrestling promotion on the planet, just do away with it because I don't think it's worth it. Number 4, this legend needs one more match. Now let me make this very clear. Wrestlers should be able to do whatever the flub they want. Like, we only have one life. And if somebody came to me and said, I don't want you to do that, I'd be like, go away, you goober, I'm living my own life. It's why when Shawn Michaels was eventually goaded back into the ring, I was perfectly fine with it, even though up till that point, he had talked about the likes of Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles and said, well, that would be great, but I'm absolutely done with the ring, until he got a big old Saudi Arabia paycheck. It was also the fact that he was teaming up with Triple H to take on Kane and The Undertaker, so even in 2018, he was probably like, well, they're seasoned pros, we can go out there and just do what we've always done. And they did try to do this when the world said, nope, it ain't happening. Because the whole thing fell apart, not only because Triple H tore his pec in the early going, but at one point Kane's mask just came off his head. And actually, if you do go back and watch this, the saving grace of it all is Shawn Michaels. But people don't remember that for obvious reasons. Because everything here just got dragged down with the rest of the madness. But it was a timely reminder for your brain. Just because you think it is a good idea for said legend to come back, maybe sometimes it just ain't right. Number 3, this wrestler has to be champion. So it's always worth giving somebody a go. I mean, why not, right? One of two things will happen. 1, you'll go, oh man, that was the right thing to do. Or 2, it doesn't work. And who cares? You've got 365 days worth of television. Just head in a different direction. But when you strip it all back, you really don't know if a certain superstar is going to work as the world champion until he has the championship belt. I think Triple H said this once. The first time you do win it, nobody knows what they're doing. It's only after you have lost the damn thing and you win it back where you go, I get it now, you've got the experience. I mean, somebody who understood this entirely was The Undertaker, because he was well aware, well, my gimmick is so big and my character is so over the top in the best possible way, I don't actually need a title, because what good does it do me? And do you know who else who understood that? Bray Wyatt. But just go and read all the stories from his friends when he was discussing the gimmick and the character. He knew what he wanted to get out of this, and a championship was not high up on his list of priorities. He did get so popular though, the fans were desperate for it, so I suppose it is good that WWE eventually acquiesced. But yeah, in practice when you saw it, well, it didn't really work. So it all comes back down to this idea that maybe when it comes to your big old belts, you do have to be a little bit more selective. Because let's go back in the past and just through some names who never won the World Championship, and arguably they could have done so easily. I mean, Roddy Piper, Scott Hall, Ted DiBiase, Kurt Hennig, they would have all been fine choices, but at the time the WWF was being very precious. And the positive of all of this is that even when Bray was put in a bad situation, he always knew how to get out of it, because he just had such a creative brain. Another reason his passing away was so sad We had barely touched the surface. Number 2, CM Punk should return to WWE before his AEW run. Here we go. Now, it does seem very likely that this was possible at one point, because CM Punk has even talked about this in interviews. Before he had signed with All Elite Wrestling, at some juncture, he did have a little bit of a conversation with WWE. So let's just play devil's advocate for one moment here, because if that had have happened, which was many a fan's dream, well, in hindsight, I don't actually think it would have worked out that well at all. Because let us look at the timeline. I do believe, given that period, Vince McMahon was still in charge, but also a lot of the changes that WWE has experienced over the last 2 years hadn't have happened. I don't think Punk would have liked that environment. In fact, he probably would have walked into it and gone, man, nothing has changed at all. And if that had have gone down, maybe what happened a decade ago would have happened for a second time. Whereas in AEW, he was able to return to pro wrestling. He was in a completely different world. And yeah, look, it sucks that didn't work out. Like, it really sucks. But then it was like, oh, hey, you can come over here. He'd already acclimatized himself to the brand new form of sports entertainment, which is why when he went back over there, he realized that was the right place for him. Once again, that was a bit like a Professor Layton puzzle, but you take my point. So it really does kind of feel like the company turning a blind eye for all these demands to bring CM Punk back, say in 2021, were actually for the best. And now in the modern times, we have the best version for all. Number 1, Cody has to end the bloodline. I mean, this seemed like the simplest thing ever. Cody Rhodes goes to WrestleMania 40. He beats Roman Reigns to become the WWE champion. And then Roman is so sad, the bloodline falls apart, and we just move on to something new. And I tell you this, my friends, if we had have done that, it would have been totally cool. You also could have feuded Roman and Solo right off of the bat, and Bob would have been your uncle, even if his name is Dave. This is where you do have to take your fake hat off to the creative team, because they were like, nah, we ain't doing that. We have way too much credibility built up in this bloodline, and given that the whole group is meant to be a family lineage, well, we're just gonna get a bunch more family members, and we'll carry it on. So while Solo did become the brand new tribal chief, we got Jacob Fatu, we got Tangaloa, and we got Tama Tonga, and I will tell you this, as I do stand here in the middle of 2024, ever since WrestleMania, I think it's been damn great. It's also turned Roman Reigns into a babyface, even though he hasn't turned up on TV, and that has been WWE's dream since 2015, so it's pretty hard to argue against it. It also proves that when Paul Heyman said we're only in the 3rd inning, he may have been telling the truth. So when you go through the Anoa'i family, there's about 42 other people that could go into a Bloodline version 3, but by then you're probably flogging a dead horse. The point is now, no matter how it ends, it is going to go down in the history books as one of the best groups in pro wrestling history. And that doesn't happen, my friends. You got to put the work in. But that is another huge bravo. Now, of course, if there's anything else you're happy to admit that you were wrong about and that WWE was correct about, drop me a comment below before you like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And if you would like more wrestling trivia from me, click the video on the screen. More importantly than that, though, my friends, thank you very much for joining me as always. Remember to shout 1, 2, ooh when you do go to wrestling shows, because everybody else is going to do it anyway. You take care. I'll see you soon.